Good morning. Today is Sunday, September 1st, 2024. The news from Israel has been grim even before the latest news that came out late yesterday. Hirsch Goldberg Poland, age 23. Liran Yerushalmi, age 24. Liran Danino, age 25. Alex Libnov, age 32. Carmel Gott, age 39. Almog Sarusi, age 25. The six of them, along with hundreds of others, were abducted, kidnapped by terrorists, Hamas, on October 7th. Their bodies were found yesterday in a tunnel in southern Gaza, brought back to Israel. The Hamas terrorists had murdered them just before their bodies were found. We all know there is a huge amount of frustration, anger, fear, and grief, especially grief today in Israel and beyond. Recently, Daniel Gordis interviewed Gabriel Mitchell. Mitchell and his wife grew up in the United States. They made Aliyah in 2005. Gabriel also served in Sahal and then in the Miluim, in the reserves, every year for a period of time. He and his wife now have 3 daughters, 2 careers. On October 10th, he was called up at the age of 40, along with so many others. And Gabriel served in a tank in Gaza for 5 months. Home only for a few brief hours or a day or so at a time. Each time he left home, no one knew if they would see him ever again. In this interview, he pointed out something very critical that I fear we don't focus on enough, and that is, aside from the terrible loss of life, 1,200 murdered on October 7th, hundreds more taken captive, hundreds more falling in battle. There are also about 10,000 who have suffered serious injuries in the course of this war so far, whose lives will never be the same. The impact on Israeli society is unimaginable. So Gabriel said the interview was about the effect of the war on his family, and especially the impact of his serving for 5 months in a tank in Gaza, the impact on his family. And we cannot even imagine how profound that impact is. But he said, our 6-year-old, so she was 6 years old at the time, now she's 7, but she was 6 years old, said to us, to he and his wife, "You grew up in America, right?" Yes, we grew up in America. And she said, their 6-year-old daughter said, well, why did you come here if you knew that there were people here who wanted to kill you? And she's 6 years old. Now, obviously, that question sticks with a parent for a long time. But he said, Gabriel, I would say one of the things that I found to be incredibly interesting is how our daughters cued into music as a way to understand what was going on collectively, the new Israeli music. So Gordis asked, they have smartphones? Mitchell answered, they do not. So how are they listening to music? Well, Gabriel says, I assume that first they're picking you up at school, and then at home they come home and the radio's on. They hear a song that they've heard at school, maybe also from their friends, I don't know. And truthfully, this is a parenthesis, there's a lot about the months of October through March that happened in the home that I really don't know all that much about. I picked it up secondhand. Just think about that for a moment. But there are definitely songs that they understood were songs about the war. Some of those songs were more positive. Some of those songs dealt very directly with depression. One of the songs I know that our oldest daughter, she's 10 years old, is familiar with, is the song that's called Machar Ani Met, If Tomorrow I Die. I have to give credit to the song. It's a very powerful song. But the fact that she knows the song at the age of 10, I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to feel about it as a parent. But she knows the song. So this is a song by Liran Danino. It came out in January of this year, January 2024. It's in Hebrew. I'm going to play just a few seconds of it so that you hear the melody and maybe catch a few of the words. And then I will translate part of it for you.
Machar Ani Met, תעשי מסיבה, אל תהיי עצובה, גם אם יש לך סיבה. מחר אני מת, תתקשרי לכולם, אל תספרי על אדם, תספרי על הים, על כמה שרציתי לנגוע, על כמה שאהבתי לחיות, על איך עליתי איתי גבוה, ואיך זה לא יכול להיות, שממחר כבר לא אקרא לך כפרה, לא אחבק אותך יותר בלילות.
If tomorrow I die, make a party. Don't be sad even if you have reason to be sad. If tomorrow I die, call everyone. Don't talk about the blood. Talk about the sea. About how much I wanted to touch. About how much I loved to live. So, to continue now, I will not use the word but, because what I want to add is not in opposition to all of that, or to minimize it in any way, especially today, because it is truly, tragically overwhelming. And This is part of that story. Now, this is actually a follow-up to something that I shared with you months ago. Last October, I shared with you we were discussing Shaarei Tzedek Hospital in Jerusalem. Now, but what I said about Shaarei Tzedek Hospital in Jerusalem was true in other places, in other hospitals throughout Israel as well. I was talking about Shaarei Tzedek. In the month of October 2023, there were more births than any other month on record. And we discussed that. So here's a follow-up. Not from Shaarei Tzedek, but from Soroka Hospital, which is the main hospital in Beersheba, the main, most advanced hospital in all of southern Israel. And this is part of a letter written by a woman who is writing to Sivan Rahav Meir. Shalom Sivan. My name is Leah Melamed. I'm a midwife at Soroka Hospital in Beersheba. At the beginning of the war 10 months ago, you interviewed me in the delivery room together with the dear midwife, Hila Azulai. On that day, I made myself a promise to update you regarding the baby boom of which we spoke in that interview during those difficult days. Births since the outbreak of the war were emotionally draining. Evacuees gave birth. Those who survived the hell of October 7th gave birth, as well as those who were grieving the loss of family members. Every midwife was overcome by a wave of emotions, both joyful and sad. And now, 10 months later, there is a different wave of births. I sense that there is something more in the air. Couples arriving now are those who decided to bring new life into the world at a time of crisis. This is a choice that, from a certain perspective, lacks all logic. How is it possible to think about bringing new lives into such a world after October 7th? When you asked me 10 months ago from where do I derive my strength, I answered that I draw inspiration from the Jewish midwives in Egypt who had reverence for God. They saw beyond the brutal decree of Paro to throw all Jewish baby boys into the Nile. The midwives lived by one truth that exalted the value of life even at the price of endangering their own lives. The midwives knew then and know also today how to see growth from within the challenge and crises, even when others have difficulty believing that such growth will indeed become. Today I can say that I derive strength from the mothers I witnessed giving birth. From these women who can see into the future with the same strength displayed by their forebears in ancient Egypt. They remind me of Yocheved challenging Amram, her husband, who refused to bring other children into that world of Egyptian exile after Miriam and Aaron were born. Yocheved demanded that Amram rouse himself with newfound faith and have another child. And the result of that was the birth of Moshe, the deliverer of the Jewish people. There's a famous rabbinic story, I've shared it before. A great rabbi once said, everyone should have 2 pieces of paper, one in each pocket, as a reminder at all times. On one piece of paper, write the words, Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam. For my sake, the entire world was created. I am the greatest most exalted of all creation, everything that God made it for me, bishvili nivra olam. And on the other piece of paper write, va'anochi afar ve'efer. Avraham, standing before God, said, I am nothing but dust and ashes. And this rabbi said the key to a meaningful life is to know at every moment which is the correct paper to reach for. That's the story. Now listen, please, finally to this poem, recently written in Israel by Hannah Yerushalmi. The rabbis advised, keep two truths in your pocket. One should read, I am but dust and ashes, and the other should read, the entire world was created for me. An 8-year-old has something else in his pocket. Confetti. Why? It's his emergency confetti, he says. During these raw days, he carries it with him everywhere, just in case there is good news. Especially today, every one of us needs to carry emergency confetti at all times. My friends, I wish you a good day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.